We pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call.
I'll turn on the microphone, please.
Roll call. Director Valentine.
Here.
Director Coleman.
Here.
Director Morgan's here. Director Allred.
Here.
And Director Barney.
Here.
Okay, all present. Next item is approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve agenda. Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The ayes carry unanimously. Okay, item 2, community announcements, public comments on items not on the agenda. So those of you online, feel free to type in. Nothing there. Anyone present that has comments or announcements? Okay, we'll move on to item 3, consent agenda. Staff recommends approval of the consent items in one motion.
Motion to present, approve the consent items A and B on the consent calendar.
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes carry unanimously. Item 4 is action items. First one, A, is a resolution to amend Board Policy 300 as it relates to authorized positions and compensation.
Good afternoon. I'm presenting on policy 300. This policy revision doesn't, just so you know, it does not have an impact to the budget on this current year. This just allows us to broaden the ranges of some of the positions that over the years haven't been increased and with cost of living and everything else. So we raised the maximum on a couple positions and then as well as brought up some of the positions to minimum wage because it is $16 an hour now. There is also positions that were on our policy 300 that we don't actively recruit for, such as the director of planning and facilities manager. So at this time, we're just going to remove them if down the way we want to recruit for those, but that way they're not posted on our policy and we don't have people in those positions. So I'm just asking to adopt the resolution approving the policy 300.
Okay. Question if I could. Like this, when's the last time it's been revised?
We did do a revision, but for different reasons, because when we took on, we changed security to operations specialist. But as far as making like a full overhaul, I mean, this isn't to have a full overhaul either. But it was last year when we did the operations specialist.
Last year. Because I'm seeing this page and I'm seeing all the red. So were these renamed positions?
No, it's just when it gets reformatted and you delete a cell because we deleted the 2 positions.
Okay.
The red line version just kind of moves them up. So they're not, these weren't all changed. It's just the formatting changed.
So director of fuels and director of administration is crossed out. So that means directors of fuels used to be below it.
Yeah.
In a
There's a table on the next couple of pages that has the updated version.
Okay.
And on the bottom of
I was confused by that.
Yeah, okay.
And on the bottom of that, we just like to provide the red line so you can kind of see the changes that we are making.
Okay.
On the bottom of that has all the changes that we've made to that policy over the years. So last one was April 4th of 2023. So just a year.
Okay. Recently.
When the one that's crossed out and the one that's not crossed out are in the same box, it looks like a was now.
Yeah.
And it's got a little like,
Yeah.
are we changing?
Yeah.
Are people trading jobs and stuff?
Yeah.
Very misleading.
That's new management style, you know, we'll become the director of fuels next.
Right.
And then like the POH, if you're going to get to that in a second, that really, I don't see any revisions in that. Right?
On the what?
POH?
On the.
I'm sorry. Why am I saying POH? The handbook.
That will come later as an action item.
Okay.
So this is just the policy 300.
Okay. Well,
You had it all. Yep.
this morning I was reading every page and everything, and I'm going, "Oh, what's changed in the manual?"
Yep. Yeah. So we'll go over that
Sorry,
in a further action item.
I make a motion to approve. Second. Item Okay, we've got a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Public comment.
Okay, public comment? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the ayes carry unanimously. Next item is B, resolution to amend board policy 400.
Good afternoon, directors. In a moment, we'll hear from Director of Operations, who will be updating Board Policy 700. And as part of that update, it removes Article 5, which is refers to construction and development activities. This amendment is to relocate Article 5 from Board Policy 700 into Board Policy 400, which is airport uses. It does include some language updates that clarify email addresses, removes a reference to an engineering department that we don't have, and adds detail as to submissions of plans and those sort of things. So what we're asking is for a resolution to relocate Article 5 into Policy 400 from Policy 700, and it will become Board Policy 400, Section 4-2.05. And there are no fiscal impacts to this change.
Okay, thank you.
What were some of the highlights of any revisions when you transferred them over? Are there insignificance, just grammar, or?
It was, like I said, mainly it removed a reference to the airport engineering department that we don't have an engineering department. It included signage in one of the items that needs to be approved by the district, and mainly grammar and just the actual steps that coincide with the county planning and building department policies for obtaining permission from the airport before you can permit development activities.
Okay, public comment on item B.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Public comment.
I did not know.
Oh, yes. Okay, sorry.
All those opposed?
Should have to.
Okay, ayes carry unanimously for item B to amend board policy 400. Item C, resolution to amend board policy 700 as it relates to policy language.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board. We did quite a few changes to policy 700. I believe if you look at the document, it is majority red text right now in the red line version. Some highlights of it, corrected, miscellaneous spelling and grammar errors, corrected references from general manager or district to CEO as applicable, just for consistency of language. If you read through it, they were dispersed randomly throughout the document, whether they're calling it the CEO or the general manager or a representative of the district.
Thank you.
Streamline that a little bit better. We removed references to security manager, security director, security department to operations, and to better reflect the changes that are in 300 with accurate titles. As Floyd had mentioned, we removed Article 5 to be included into Policy 400. Amended some changes to special operations. As operations have grown and testing has grown on the airfield, some of the language was inconsistent for reserving spaces on the airfield. Corrections with air traffic control tower and operations department. Removed some more text and rewrote to align with current practices. Throughout the entirety of the document, added provisions for Class Gulf airspace as it was completely absent within the document. So, tower only has Class Delta airspace open during what I call bankers hours for air traffic control. So it's actually added in those Class Gulf, added large UAS provisions in alignment with the recent letter of agreement language that we had approved a couple of meetings ago. Corrected all instances of licenses to enter, to access licenses to align with current practices, as well as our COA and LOA practices. Added testing and flight test manifests for special operations and testing on the airfield. So in the event something happens, we know who we're looking for. Changes in the badging policy. As you know, we've been recently reworking badging policy. And then the big two, the Article 9 test site operations. So as we are aware, there are a lot of governances and regulations and practices that we have to deal with dealing with our test sites. None of them were recorded in our policy 700. So we streamlined, wrote those down and put them into our policy 700 to ensure that it is aligned with both the current practices that we have here, as well as some feedback that we had gotten from the FAA during our spaceport inspection. And then the last one that I did want to discuss with the board is in the fuels section, adding in language for the general manager to have the authority to negotiate the price per gallon of fuel sold for special events at a discount rate approved by the board. So in essence, should we have a special event, for instance, last week we had the symposium for experimental test pilots. They were planning a fly-in, unfortunately the weather turned in, but we could have the board approve a discount rate, and then instead of at 10,000 gallons or more discount for these events to encourage community engagement and bring more people to the airport, we could have the fuel discount.
You said general manager.
Yes,
Is he the CEO or is he the general manager?
general manager.
We don't refer him to the CEO anymore?
In this policy, it's general manager.
No, that's what I'm getting at.
That's why we fixed it.
General manager.
Yeah.
Not remove this position, regarding in the board packet that was emailed out.
Okay, well,
Excellent.
good enough.
So that is one that I wanted to make sure we put in there. It's such a small line in that, relatively large document that we would like to discuss with the board. But those are all of the highlights to the changes to policy 700. And you have all of the fine details in front of you.
I have a question.
Of course.
So what are our discount rates for these particular events and what events are listed?
Well, we don't have a discount for these events, and that's the reason why we wanted to make this change, is because I have a theory on why our policy is the way that it currently is. I think there might have been a problem at one point where a general manager may have been giving discounts that were so deep that we weren't generating any kind of revenue per sale gallon. I don't know. I'm trying to hold together why you would write a policy like this, but the policy is actually inverted in a sense, okay? I would need to get approval for anything less than 10,000 gallons to give a discount for a flying event, okay? Whereas anything above 10,000 gallons, according to our current policy, I wouldn't require board approval. And that's bizarre. It's usually should be the other way around because there's a greater financial impact over 10,000 gallons. So we're trying to correct for that because right now, Mojave doesn't offer a local tenant fuel discount, which is pretty standard across the board. If you have a special event, you do knock maybe a couple of cents per gallon off or a percentage for special events to encourage actively engaging in, like, for example, when we started selling fuel on Sundays, we want people to come in on Sundays. So how do we do it? We offer a fuel sale discount. So this is trying to fix that gap, that problem in the policy.
Good catch on that, actually. Had no idea that's what the policy was.
Is that because of Bola that we got into this? So he's deceased, so I can mention the thing.
A prior general manager asked for the authority to do discounts on sales over 10,000 gallons. As I recall, the board established a minimum margin that had to be made on the sales. And at one point in time, the district received a claim for selling fuel below cost, which you cannot do.
Received a claim, meaning,
Another airport threatened to sue because the fuel costs were, the sales price was below cost. So adjustments were made and the board revisited with the general manager how it was structured at that point in time. And as I recall, I think that is when that particular GM said, look, we get people who come in and buy 15,000 gallons worth of fuel. I should be able to give them a discount. And the board said, yeah, you're right. You should, but you can't go, your margin has to be at least this much. right? You can't be losing money on it. And so that's the background for that. I don't know how much it's used or not used, but that's where that came
Well, and I
from.
think on the larger sales too, we were losing some aircraft that were flying somewhere else to fill up, and we were trying to capture that business.
Yeah.
I think the other one was, we were in a situation we just wanted to keep, because that's a revenue source, but I like it and I agree with it. I like to be competitive. And of course,
So are we reversing it so that the GM will no longer be able to give discounts above 10,000 gallons?
And I don't
This
know.
language reads, it has the 10,000 gallons, and all we're doing is we're adding the addition of, and 5,000 gallons stays in the policy as it was written before. And then we're adding in the provision that for special events, the GM can also
In
provide a
addition.
discount in addition.
So he can still provide bulk discounting
yeah, that's pretty cheap.
as well as special event
So the
discounts too.
full line says the general manager has the authority to negotiate the price per gallon of fuel sold for purchases of 10,000 gallons or more, or special events at a discount rate approved by the board. So that just adds in the special
Right,
events
that's
language.
great.
So there's going to be a rate approved by the board?
No, hang on a
Sure.
sec. Harold, when we set that up years ago, was the
That's fine.
was the margin established for the bulk sales?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
we've been doing it for years. Dan did it, I mean, on special events.
Yeah.
Usually give them like the chance price or something, which is a dime off, so.
I think that it's incorporated in the pricing structure already. So it's not like every time there's a special event, we come to the board and we say, what discount can we give?
Yeah, that's too cumbersome. That's-
Yeah, no, I think it's already in the fuel
Okay.
sales structure, whatever you want to call it, pricing.
Okay, I don't quite remember it like that, but it is, okay.
Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what we've done in the past.
Okay, no, I just remember there was some mistake about discounting fuels, and I think it had to do with,
We weren't, apparently, I think we weren't including labor costs in the
yeah,
sales prices, so we rolled labor costs in, and then we were at market.
Okay.
I heard the word tenant discount in the talking. What's, I mean, there isn't one now. Is that a proposal at all, or?
I think that approving this policy will point us in the direction of establishing a tenant fuel sales discount. There should be one. I've never been to an airport that doesn't have it.
Correct. And what kind of percentage are we talking? I mean,
We would have to do a little bit of
10%
research,
or-
and what I would do is actually tap App Fuel and see what would be appropriate. But it should be one that makes it beneficial.
What's kind of a normal tenant? Then is it 5, 10%, more than that, or?
I've seen them around 10, even up to 15%. And then obviously we can build in tiered structures where certain entities that purchase so many gallons of fuel per year would have a more significant discount. But this is the first step. Next step is to go ahead and figure out what we want to do for that discount.
So, not related to fuels, but just related to the changes. The badging policy change. I don't suppose you can give us an overview on what's different there.
So the biggest change for the badging policy is, of course, changing the security to operations language as applicable, and then the not to exceed 24 consecutive calendar months from date of issuance as aligned with current security practices in airports. Those are the two big ones. As of right now, or as of when this document was written, there was no clear expiration on a lot of the badges. So we made sure to add those in, that it is not to exceed 24 consecutive calendar months from date of issuance.
Okay, so folks with badges are going to need to renew the badge every 2 years then.
Correct.
I'd like to suggest if there's a way to communicate I've gotten several questions recently about the sponsored badges.
The authorized signatories or sponsoring for a subtenant?
Yes, subtenant or worker or employee or of someone who's in, like in the GA area, for instance, or something, like if you've got a mechanic working and he needs it. We've got a great new policy. I just think we need some better way to communicate it, because I was getting, people have been asking me questions. I'm like, what? It's not that hard. It's, the new policy's great. You can just, anyone who's got a hanger can request one for somebody. So
Yes,
not
and it
enough
does-
people know about it, is all I'm saying. I
So
think
when we put these out, we'll ensure that tenants get a copy of this, and then we can also use that list. I'll get with Chris to make sure that we clarify that and provide it to our tenants.
Tenants, bulletin board in the bathroom, the website. I'm just saying, I'm not sure we're always effectively communicating with those people, because I get questions all the time about stuff that's, I'm like, well, that's already been, why don't you go to the subway, the free dinners with the, the updates and all that, which was fantastic, but either people don't know about it or they're just reluctant to go in and they complain. So maybe it's not our problem, but we should do our best to get that out there so that they know about all these things we're doing to make it a little easier.
Yeah, we ought to have one and a spot source for just information for tenants. And someplace you can go, in
A
general,
lot of it's on the web. It's just, I don't know.
it is, but
But
rather
I'm
than
still
going
getting,
fishing, just
yeah,
tenant or for information to
yeah.
procedures.
We should
I know.
figure out a way to do better.
I know one of the things that we've been working on since our transition to AeroSimple is providing a tenant portal, and we are constantly looking for things that would be beneficial. For instance, offer a signatory training quiz, what runway's open? What does the calendar look like? I know we've been slowly working towards that and integrating more of our tenant requests into that portal as we build it and develop it. So I think definitely that'll be a good thing to put in there. And yeah, newsletter as well. We can put it in our newsletter. And of course, I will get with Chris for the immediate question to make sure that we're getting badging information to those tenants, that they're all understanding what those
And
processes
there's probably
are.
other things like that in the past that where I was like, this is a non-issue. It's, so it's just, I don't know what we can do to do better, to get the word out. Like I said, I don't know if we put our newsletter on the bathroom wall or something, anything like that, that might.
We have social media as well.
There's some people just have their head in the sand. They go out there, they're hanger and work on stuff. They don't check the web. I don't know.
And then
Problems. Right, exactly. And complain.
You'd think just the website, you could push a part of the website and have it like board of director agenda and everything that's there. So fuel, everything is on the website. So it'd be a good place to have something like that.
Any other director comments or questions on this resolution?
No, no motion.
Community comments? Go for it.
I made a motion.
I second it.
This is for resolution, then board policy.
Item C, policy 700 revisions. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The ayes carry unanimously. Item D, resolution amend to service and rates.
This is my item as well. This is just in regards to, we have tenants and even customers who come in that want to rent some of our equipment. So we just revised the service and rate sheets based on the equipment that we currently have, because over the years, it's been several years since this has been updated. So updated it to the appropriate equipment that we have. And then also on the equipment, because it's newer equipment, we're instilling that our employees need to operate the equipment. So put that into the cost. So that way we're not lending out a forklift and we don't know how it's being cared for, that we take care of the equipment. And then also same thing with the security and operations department, changing rates of pay change. So we changed their rates if we have a special event. And then also with the fire department, changed it to what we're being billed from ProTech with the 18% admin fee.
And you mentioned forklift. What other equipment can people?
We have the loader, bobcat, motor grader. So those are the old ones. Okay, Blaze probably have that one. Yeah, so forklift, van lift, sweeper, the loader, the Bobcat. So there's several different
And
pieces.
then any tenant can have access to that?
Well, they don't have access to it. They would have to put in a request through maintenance.
Okay,
And then maintenance would give them the service and rate sheets and what they would be billed.
okay,
To
it's a billable,
It's a billable, yeah,
Okay.
it's a billable item.
okay.
Yeah, so we're changing the rate to bill in for the masked employees doing the operating
Okay.
to care for the equipment.
I'm just curious, you have like a 2023 revenue, or those type of items in your head, just,
For the equipment, I don't know how often do you get for the equipment? A lot of it's on special.
no, I know, but did you have enough?
You know, I
last year
don't-
where you did,
yeah.
You know, $25,000 of rentals or?
No, not as far as broke down.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. Where we get more of these service and rate sheets come into play with if Strata Launch is flying on the weekends. If Strata Launch is flying, during the week or normal business hours, we don't charge for them. But if they're flying on a Saturday or Sunday and they need sweepers on standby, we bill for the sweeper and then any of the additional staff that had to come in for that
Right.
special op. So these are just to be used outside of our normal business hours.
Any community comments? Can I make a motion to pass resolution B?
Seconded?
All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay, ayes carried unanimously, item D. Item E, resolution to amend employee handbook.
This is my item as well. So for the employee handbook, we upped our services or started working with our Paychecks that does our payroll right now, with the services that they have the HR piece of it. So they were working on with us, just revising our employee handbook to ensure that we have anything that's legal to be included in our employee handbook. So at that time, we kind of reformatted to kind of their format and included obviously the leaves and the accommodations. That's all something legally we have to abide by even before, but now it's included in the employee handbook. But while I was making the changes to the employee handbook, the couple things that impact the district or the board is I increased the health and dental monthly amounts by 5% for employees to help them with the cost of the health benefits due to the increases this last year. And then also the paid sick leave, that was something through California. Also, the accrual had to be increased. So we just put it in writing and in the employee handbook. And then added the electronics communication piece, added the language just to notify employees that the telephone in operations and in tower are being recorded at all times. So just so that way they're aware that those two phone lines are being recorded.
Telephone and operations, that's,
The operations
Okay.
phone line, yeah.
okay.
If you call after hours or you typically operations. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So I'm just asking to
Does it state that when you, this, okay? It does.
Yeah.
I figured that was
Yeah.
wrong. You have to anytime. when it
Yeah.
talks about it.
Yeah. So we wanted to add it to the language of the
Sure.
employee handbook. So I'm just asking to adopt the resolution for the new handbook.
Any community comments? Can I make a motion to approve the amended employee handbook?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Ayes carried unanimously. Okay, reports.
Mr. President, members of the board, actually, two of these items today, I think would be covered by Mead and Hunt's representative that's here. Greg Mead is actually in the crowd. He's the project manager for both the water line and has some insight on Taxiway Alpha project as well. If you wouldn't mind having him brief on those two items.
Welcome.
Excuse me. Good afternoon, Mr. President of the board. It's really my first to represent Mead and Hunt, so it's nice to meet all of you. You got a wonderful facility here. The update on the water line is it's going along according to schedule so far. Everything, we're finding things in the ground every so often, but overall it's going well. They've just started to shove the casings underneath the railway today and tomorrow. So if you get a chance or want to see it, let me know. Then it looks like we're scheduling somewhere about the 16th to be wrapped up and with any luck be energized by then. Clean up after that and then get out of here. The taxiway alpha, some of the updates on that, I've been having discussions with Royal Electric. I was trying to move forward some of the separate work from some of the extended long lead items as we've discussed in the past with the fixtures and so forth. So they've been amenable to try to come in. They're working out their schedule and their work plan and see what they can put into their schedule to start on the, as Floyd had mentioned in the last board meeting about, or Tim did, with moving forward on some of the home run replacements to begin with, to try to expedite some of that, the worries on the system. So with any luck, they'll be able to push and get lead times cut down and then potentially just roll right into the taxiway work. So that work, that all goes well and they get back to me and confirm, would be sometime early mid-May. That's what it's looking like to start the home run work. So then with any luck, in a couple of weeks, they can roll into the rest. Fingers crossed. So that's all dependent upon the lead time from the manufacturer for the fixtures. So that's kind of the state of the state with those right now. Any questions that hopefully I can answer?
Just to clarify, the home run is the hammerheads?
No, sorry, the home runs are the main set of conductors that come from right there at Echo and Charlie that come into the vault.
Right,
So
cable runs.
yeah, it's the big cable runs. It's all the home runs are just where everything comes together.
Right.
And then gets back to the vault. So those are critical to the entire airfield. So the thought was if we can get those replaced sooner than later, then those concerns can at least be alleviated. So.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so
Great.
much.
Inland Port, I actually got a call from Kidder Matthews yesterday, and honestly, it was a half-hour conversation to basically say they have no new leads. They've been working on a couple of business opportunities they thought would pan out, but have not. So they're continuing to chug along, but it's been slow in regards to trying to find somebody to base an operation out there with the Inland Port. And the water system hydraulic modeling update, still banging away, still working on getting some of those outliers to get to finalize the data so we can get a finalized report. And then finally, hangar development. In the last 2 weeks, I've not spoken really too much to the developers. I know that they're still planning to move forward. They're looking at possibility of signing a lease in April. Bob, I think you probably talked to them last, but since I have, I don't know if there was any kind of insight.
Yeah, he had lots of bids, everything, all his ducks in a row. It was exciting. It's going to be find a way to make this happen.
No, that concludes my report.
Water system hydraulic modeling.
Still working on getting the outliers, the ones that are still remaining. That it's just a handful of entities right now. So, but coming along, making progress.
I mean, is that them coming out here and measuring?
No, it's us getting the demand for each facility on the airport, so we can do a good graphical calculation of the amount of water that we need long term for. We're actually going to the individual tenants and saying, "Hey, we need this data." You know,
Are they metered?
individually.
Please.
Yeah. They're not, that's one of the issues.
It's a guess.
It's a guess, it's an educated guess based on their appliances and temperature count, whatever their consumption is. And some of the We don't know, because we don't know. But we're down to the few that we don't have access to, and
And estimate?
that's what we're gonna end up at.
I mean, without a meter, that's all it is. All right.
Okay, so item 6, director comments on items not on the agenda.
Ball field's looking pretty good. Just trying to get positive before, are they playing on it?
You started pretty soon, I know that.
Yeah, I believe the high school is using it.
That's nice. It's nice when you come into an airport and see something's taken care of. It's just nice. It's
Well,
a nice thing.
we'd appreciate it. I have someone that goes over there once a day to
Pull weeds.
check up on things, yeah.
Okay, any other director comments? I had a comment. I was at the last Plane Crazy this past weekend and brought my plane out, and there was I'll get this term wrong, he's not a security personnel, he's a operations person who I was asking him about the iPad. He was collecting data from people, and I think that's potentially going to turn into a great thing, kind of like a concierge type service where they come up and ask you, what do you need? And my only concern was that it appeared like there was an awful lot of information they were requesting. I don't know if that's it depends on how it's presented, because I wasn't, maybe you could address this. So it's, I get it. It kind of replaces the person behind the counter at an FBO kind of, what can I do for you today kind of thing. But
So
usually
the
they just ask
intention,
for a phone contact and a name.
right? So for the attention for special events is
Yeah.
exactly like you had said. It's a contact, it's a name, it's a welcome to Mojave. The iPad and the scan in is if we have an aircraft come in, for instance, someone parks overnight, they go hang out at the hotel, winds pick up, they didn't tie it down, their Cessna is now somewhere in the next county over, and we need to call them and contact them. So we are going to address the person on Saturday. He is brand new, and he got those two lines of communication mixed up. Whereas someone's coming in after an hours and we say, hey, whose aircraft is this? We need to ensure that we need to get in contact with you if there's an emergency or if they have any tie-down fees that need to be paid, versus what it would look like at a special event such as Plane Crazy. So we are going to clarify that with the team. Tim briefed us this morning on that one.
So I also got a message about that.
Yeah, that was...
Not real sure what you're referring to. For instance, there's a request to provide an address on the form, and I don't know I assume that's voluntary, right? It just depends on how it's asked, but is that something?
I think so.
We can look at the.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it and see what that...
Yeah, I just don't want it to seem like we're getting into personal,
Yeah, I was not
number
involved in
and a
the
phone
creation
contact.
of the form, but we'll be sure to look
Yeah,
at it
yeah.
and see, we don't
I
want
just
it to
think
be perceived as invasive by any
like,
means.
like we're spying on you. It should be, we want to be able to get in touch with you. Welcome. Right?
Yes. Apparently,
So,
we're taking this.
The only reason I mentioned this is there was kind of an incident with someone who parked next to the fuel trucks where they shouldn't have. And they handled that well. They came into Voyager and like, who parked next to the fuel truck? We need to have you move it. But then the next thing I heard out of their mouth was, we have an iPad. We need you to fill out this information. And I was like, is this like a
Yeah, it's not
police enforcement? And so then I, because I haven't had this experience because I'm local, right? I'm not arriving and parking at Voyager. So then I walked outside and asked them, hey, what's the iPad for? And then I introduced myself. We went through it, and he was real nice. But it just, the way I overheard it in the Voyager, I was having lunch as well. it was like, what's going on? Is this a police action? You know, like, and then I saw they were taking address, so I was inquiring, and I figured I'd just mention it to you to make sure that the intent of your team is that you're, you know, it's an inviting thing, and we're here to help thing, not a. It probably, I don't know that it was received that way. It's just I was overhearing something from the next booth, and it was kind of funny. Okay.
But we will address it.
For what it's worth, the message I got was I was surprised to go with the questions in the iPad, but they said it came across as endearing. So it didn't read as aggressive.
He's a really nice guy. We are very lucky to have him here, but he is new, so it may have just been training hiccup. So we'll be sure to talk to him.
He wasn't the one that did that. There was two. It's not important. It's I can talk about it later. It's not something we can talk about. But I just want to make sure that it's whatever information we're asking, it's, you know, it's enough. But the fact that when I looked at it, I was like, oh, address, where?
Looking at our parking slip, that the QR code outside the door, and then also the one we have in the reception, which typically aircraft check in with, it doesn't have the mailing address. So like Ariel said, she'll check with them. Maybe he was pulling up a different form, but I just wanted to make sure, because I didn't think we asked for your address on the parking slip. There's their QR
like
form.
Address.
No, it was not. Yeah, it's first, last name. Yeah.
So, but it is a very thorough form. I think, and this is what we kind of briefed on, because remember when we had an issue with Unicom asking for tail numbers, for example, right? We had to educate the staff and say, look, we're not interested in that kind of detail. We're more interested in getting the aircraft count. Okay. Yeah. So it's like trying to train some of these folks up on understanding the purpose and the reason why. For example, when we want people to check in is when they tie down overnight, because. And by the way, the reason why we even charge an overnight tie-down fee is to cover the liability insurance if something were to happen to that aircraft. It's such a nominal fee, but it just helps, right? Yeah. But we don't need this information for transited aircraft, especially like a flight. Right.
So that was the other thing was it seemed like, again, he told me he had only been here. It was new. But
yeah.
So, and I didn't think, I figured you guys would figure this out. It's a new thing and it's evolving.
Yeah, I think that it's over exuberant. I'm glad that he's very thorough, but when we get new people, we have to explain to them some of the nuances of general aviation airports. So I think that that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Sure.
Real quick, I got something with Kyle. Floyd probably knows, but the rain gutters and everything, it's great they're going in, but I've counted 3 that are smashed down by vehicles and that. I don't. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cut off. Okay.
The ones that have been damaged, we're not.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that part is part of the part that's going to be eliminated. All of those spouts were ordered the same length. They were all put on, and the plan was to go through and cut them all off.
I mean, I counted 3, and then 6 months from now, it'll all be crushed.
They are not staying that length. And we actually went through and walked through and marked them all, and they're just because of wind and weather have been slow on wrap. But should be done by this Friday.
The concrete base is going to be part of that then?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So we're done with item 6. Next one is closed session. So for those of you that are online, we're entering a closed session and we'll resume and give a summary report if you wish to stay on.
May I just make a quick comment? I dropped something that is positive in the chat. Oh, and Mojave Air and Spaceport was mentioned.
Sure. Lexi, go ahead.
Just so you guys are aware of it, I just wanted to share it.
Do we have visibility on the chat? I'm not sure we do. I think we may have to rely on your lovely spoken words, Alexia.
Oh. Well, it is a letter addressed to Congress, or from Congress to Governor Gavin Newsom, thanking him for robust efforts of ensuring California's leading role in our nation's space ecosystem. I will skip to the last sentence, that paragraph. We write to encourage you to continue to make significant investments to support California's commercial space industry. And I will then skip to paragraph number 3, California is uniquely positioned to capitalize on the rapidly growing space economy as we host several federal space equities, Central Coast, so on and then they list out our state is also home to, so on, and the Mojave Air and Spaceport and other pursuing spaceport licenses. So that was then signed by a grand total of 42 members of California's House delegation. And both Republicans and Democrats, we had our senators sign that. So nice, positive little, let's support. And in it is Mojave.
Well, thanks for bringing that to our attention, Alexi. I'll have to go read it.
I'll email it to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a great day.
So active. There's probably people on, so you guys can turn up your microphones.
That's right.
Everybody is here.
Oh, we have everyone in person.